All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. It is March 13th, 2025. You are here for How to Land a Software Engineering Job in 2025, a guide to navigating the job market. My name is Albert. I'm the founder of Albert's List. We're a job search, AI, and side hustle skills company, and I will be your co-host for today. With me is Phong Lam. He is a senior software engineer, a software engineering coach, and a longtime veteran of the industry with stops at companies like Walmart, DoorDash, and IBM. He has been doing a lot of mock interviews here on Albert's List and also has a lot of insight into the market, which you will hear about today. For those of you watching now and later, this is being recorded, and you are encouraged to use the webinar chat or the Q&A function to ask your questions. As this is in webinar mode, you will not have an opportunity to speak up and use your voice, but you can use your voice in the chat, and we will address any questions or thoughts accordingly. All right, without further ado, Fong, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Albert. Yeah, nice meeting everyone. As Albert said, my name is Phong Lam. I've been in the industry since 2016. I've done a lot of interviews, both as interviewers and interviewees. If you look at my resume, LinkedIn, or whatever, or you will notice that I tend to interview for new companies every 2 to 2.5 years or so. That's kind of something that I've chosen I've told myself to do to kind of keep myself more active in the job market, as well as just get to just to be more nimble in the time of difficulties. And things like right now is great if you have a good interview skill. It will help tremendously. In addition to that, I also work as a algorithm lead coder on my off time, helping folks to kind of get through that hump that a lot of people struggle as they face these kind of interviews at large companies. I've tutored people that go onto FANG companies, startups, all sort of the way. Myself, I've gotten offers at very, very large companies, very, very small companies, and the like. Currently, I'm working at a startup in the Web3 space, work a lot with crypto. Currently, that's just something that caught my interest, and I've been here for over 2 years now. So that's kind of something that's my that's kind of the long and short story of it. When I first started out, interview was very difficult. It was always remains difficult until you kind of get to some point where you understand more on how to navigate this, and hopefully today in this 1 hour session, hopefully be able to kind of give some insight into the job market and what you personally can do to kind of put yourself ahead of others in today's market. So these numbers will look pretty daunting for anyone. This is the statistic taken as of today in 2025. There are over 20,000 layoffs. And in addition to that, government jobs are also taking hit right now due to DOGE. So that's kind of the current market. You can get these numbers from layoffs.fyi. It's a great website to kind of see where are the layoffs happening, things like that. Great in the sense that it gives you the information. It can be pretty depressing looking at these numbers. However, it is not the end of the world that there are no jobs available. Obviously, the job market is down, especially in the tech sectors, but there are still opening happening right now, especially right now. The best time to apply is anywhere from, I would say, anywhere that is from January to about May. That would be your best time to kind of apply. If you do not have a lot of experience, just because companies will have more openings, things like that. these are some of the points that the companies are looking for today. Obviously, being able to code well is still a core requirement. In addition to that, the market evolved a lot throughout COVID and until now. While the demands remain high for software engineers, companies also looking for candidates that can kind of work with a lot of new emerging technologies. Things like AI is probably one of the most popular things right now. Crypto has always been popular. If you look into that universe, you will find a lot of well-funded companies that are looking for people. Companies such as like Phantom is one of the very prominent crypto wallet out there. They're always hiring. They are great. They have some great products. In addition to that, since remote work is still fairly popular with a lot of places, companies are looking for people that can have sort of very strong soft skill, people that have good collaboration skill, leadership, that can work well in both the virtual and in-person environment. That is sort of in soft requirements nowadays. If you are not good with kind of putting your ideas onto messages, emails, that will be very challenging for you to kind of get more into this kind of job market. But remember, technical ability is still the utmost important, but so will some of the skills such as communication, teamwork, and adaptability, things like that. Be able to pick up new stuff quickly, learn what the market is demanding for people. So if you know how to use how to interface with AI and Jet anyway, that's a great talking point. It's not exactly difficult to kind of pick up the basics from that, right? There are a bunch of books, materials, even YouTube videos that you can use to help you to kind of navigate these kind of things, right? And also be open for changes, be open for relocation. Lots of folks, when I talk to, they always tell me that some place is too far. I'm not ready to relocate and stuff like that. The key is that sure, you can always have these demands, but there will be others who will be willing to make these changes. And obviously, they are going to be in front of you in the run, in the race, if they are open for these kind of changes and relocations and so on. Once you have a lot of experience, you can demand some of these things. But if you are new in the field, if you are sort of just like a mid-level, 2, 3 years of experience, I would highly recommend, if possible, make the change, be open for these changes, be open for this relocation. My very first job, I talked to Albert about this a lot. I used to commute 4 hours a day, 2 hours one direction, because I really needed that opportunity. And it was a great opportunity for me to get into the field. So sometimes you have to make a concession. Sometimes you have to be willing to make some sacrifices for it, and that's just how it is. Right? Cool. The next is, how would we kind of position your resume, the talking points with recruiters in general, right? I would say that the best thing is create a list of things that you know very well. Companies are looking for people that are very good at some of the things, even if it's one or two of the things, rather than you list a laundry list of random stuff, like anything that you look at for 5 seconds, you list it. Nobody going to take that seriously. And that would be one of my biggest advice for people. A lot of folks, when they first started out, they will list anything that they know, that they have seen. However, if you go on, say, LinkedIn, and you look at some of the people that have worked in the field for 10, 20 years, and then you compare with someone that worked in the field for 2, 3 years, you will see a huge difference. The people who worked in the field for many years, they don't really list that much. They only list, I work at this company from X day to X day on specific product, or they don't list the laundry list of, I know these programming language, I work with all these frameworks. Because technologies comes and go, people care for what you provide, what you bring into the company, what quality, what personality that you have into the workplace. They care less about the list of things that you can list. So uh, when you create your technical skills and put that in your resume, make it condensed, make it about things that you know very, very, very well. Again, nobody cares for a list of 20 items because lots of people will immediately understand that you do not know 20 things that well. You might know them in passing, but they are not going to be something that you really know, right? So that's something that I would highly suggest. Next thing is build a strong portfolio. This is very important if you are new in the field. If this is your first, your second job, a portfolio is all you have really to communicate with a potential um, employer on what you can do. Uh, Create your own website. Maybe if I used to have a website at fonglam.com. It's actually went down now. You can't really look at it. Long story short is that I didn't do a migration when Vercel switched their deployment, so my website has been dead for a while. Probably need to resurrect it again at some point. But my point is that if you are new, a website under your name is very, very important, much more important than just things on your resume. Like I said, if you are tempted to list 20, 50 things that you kind of know in your resume, it's better to list them, to create them as working products and then put them in your actual website. Because your website, you can list whatever you want. You can make it fun, you can make it quirky, you can make it professional. It doesn't matter. So that's kind of like your playground to kind of display what you know, what you can do. Put the GitHub link on your resume. Another thing that very good is contributing to open source. Obviously, not everyone is going to have a ton of contribution. Sometimes it can seem very, very daunting to kind of make your first contribution to open source. But if you look up guys to contribute to open source, you will find out that often you don't have to write a bunch of code. Some people just go in there, change some typos, or kind of get yourself into that ecosystem. Sometimes people change like a document, like a README, uh, correcting some typos, things like that are still valuable, and it gets you into kind of understand uh, how people work together. And you will find out that code in open source is oftentimes some of the best, most well-written code that you will ever see. More well-written and more, and uh, they will be looked at very, very carefully by a large number of people, much more than just things that that you would be doing day to day at work. So that's it's very important and very useful for you to kind of understand and know how to do this contribution, right? Uh, Again, a personal website tech blogs are very, very important. Or be active on different social media platform, things like LinkedIn, Twitter, actually X now, Facebook group, meetup group, anything like that is very, very important. The last thing I want to kind of drill in is that a lot of people, which is endlessly try to read about something, stuck in kind of textbook purgatory, document hell, and they would never try to build that thing in particular. They don't want to kind of, get their hands dirty. Just try to understand things from textbooks. And I would say that documents and textbooks can only get you so far. The most important things is that what the company is really looking for is how well you can execute things. So things that are, things on your GitHub, open source contributions are very, very, very important. Your observe, your that's the only way that companies really observe you, and you will find out that there will be many, many folks that do not have a background in software engineering working in many, many companies because they were able to showcase what they can do to these companies and get those opportunities presented for them. So keep that in mind. Um, Textbook on your things that are not related to text, to technology, to engineering are not going to be weighted as much as just simple things like doing, a bunch of commit on a very popular open source project, have a very, very strong portfolio websites, things like that are very, very, very important. Keep that in mind. Here's some of the tips that I would give. I've read many, many resumes over the years, both at work through people that I'm interviewing as well as people that I've done mentoring and tutoring over the years. So some of the most important things that you need to kind of look for is an ATS-friendly resume format. ATS is an application tracking system. Think of it as a robot that will scan your resume before it gets to an actual human. So your resume should be ATS-friendly. What does that mean? That means that it should highlight the projects, the skills, and the achievements that you have. It should be optimized in some way to match with the job description. So generally in the resume, there should be a section like an objective, things like about me. And that section is something that you can use in your advantage to kind of mirror the company that you're applying for. For example, if you are applying, say, for like, for example, for like Uber, for example, you can say that like, hey, I'm very passionate about this kind of technology. I'm passionate about AI, auto driving, and things like that. And I've noticed that this position are looking for people that are well versed in these kind of categories, and I want to kind of put my skill to it. So optimize those sections so that it fit well with what you are looking for. Some of the thing is your resume definitely need to be clean, ATS friendly format. You also shouldn't make complex layouts. I've seen people make kind of like multiple columns, creating tables, things like that. Those might look great, but they are not good for a scanner. An ATS, when they try to parse your resume to kind of scan it, if they fail to parse, they will just throw it away. So keep in mind, make sure that do not make complex layouts in your resume. Obviously, less tables, less images, no images if possible, things like that. Like, you also shouldn't use some weird fonts, for example, like don't use things like Comic Sans, cursives, obviously. You don't want it to just be completely terrible. So make things that are very vanilla, because that's something that you should be doing. And obviously, your resume should be professional. If you want to have some fun, be quirky, that's what your personal website should be for, right? So these are kind of like some example talking point that you can kind of put in. Say, I'm a software engineer in this company, in this city. This is what I do. Listing the actual numbers are more important than the things, the technology that you work with. Less people care for, Python, Java, C. People don't care for that. They care more for if you say something like my code, the product that I've done affecting 1 million users, and the new features that I created bring in 25% of new DAU. Things like that are very, very important. Things that if you can do cost cutting for company, let's say like I implemented an automated CI where it would help bring down deployment time by X amount. Things like that are very, very much more impressive than say I'm using Kubernetes, I'm doing Terraform, blah blah blah. Nobody cares for that. Well, they do, but it is a lot less impressive, and it doesn't put you ahead of someone as much as be mindful of your product, the things that you have done in how it reflects into the company's strategy, whether does it help bring in more users, does it help cutting down time to do something for others, things like that. Those are the point that you need to be doing. And again, clean single column layout resume, PDF. Try to save your resume as a PDF and see if you can read it, see if it's going to look normal, right? Use standard section, obviously, experience, education, skill project. Have a section about you, which should be the first section, or things like objective, list things that are mirroring things that are in the job description, because keep in mind, ATS oftentimes is just a very crude machine that is just trying to match your resume with what the job description is. If the job description asking for looking for a software engineer working in the iOS team, it wouldn't matter if you list out a bunch of web technologies. It would be completely meaningless. So make sure to kind of spend the time tailor your resume to what the company is looking for, quality over quantity. Do not just apply for 50 companies a day and pat yourself in the back because you believe that you have done a lot of work in it. It's better to apply for 5 where you actually spend the time doing the research in the companies and make sure that your resume match what they are asking for. And remember, use standard fonts like Calibri, Times New Roman. Those are what you should be doing. Do not do things like Comic Sans, right? Or like Old English. It's going to look like a Thomas Jefferson's, writing and in your resume, because that's just crazy. You do not want to do that, right? Yeah, or papyrus, yeah. Yep, but definitely not Comic Sans. People see that, they just will not take it seriously. If I see someone use Comic Sans, it's just going to, it's weird. There's a whole host of fonts that you shouldn't use, but obviously the more vanilla your resume is, the better. People care for content, not for how flashy it looks, right? Cool. Uh, yep. The next part is, how would you prepare for this kind of interview? These kind of interviews will be broken down to a few different stages of it. Generally, you are going to have the first round where you are going to talk with the recruiter. Generally, when the recruiter does talk to you, that means that you are going to progress to the next step. If after the recruiter talk to you and you're not progressing to the next step, there might be something in your communication. There might be something glaringly wrong that they do not pass you forward. So make sure to, usually I would say 75, 80, 90% of the time, you should be progressing into the next step of it. Cool. So what happened in the next step? You generally will have a round of technical interview. When you pass that, that usually will be online over Zoom, or sometimes you might get an OA, which is a online assessment sort of interview. If you pass that, you will either have another online technical interview, or you will be invited into an on-site, where the on-site will be anywhere from say 5 to 6 hours long, where you are going to do a series of technical interviews as well as some behavioral collaboration with other folks in the companies or in the specific team that you are going to work with. Depending on companies, there might be more than one or two of these behavioral rounds. If you interview at Airbnb, you will find out that they put a lot of emphasis on design, and you will have two different rounds with with different UX designers in the team or in the company to, and they will test you a lot on how well you are kind of have the attention to the details. Do you understand, like, good and bad UI and things like that, right? Uh, yep. How do you prepare this? Well, with the coding part, you are going to be asking to write code, obviously. This can be kind of like build something, or it can be a straight up algorithm problem, right? The algo stuff, generally you can practice this with lead code, code signal. This can be somewhat overwhelming. I would advise, if it does get overwhelming for you, find someone to study with, find a group study, or you can kind of look for group tutoring, things like that. Those are things that can help to kind of get over that hump, that difficulty part of it. And keep in mind, you shouldn't try to do this step if your problem is to get the interviews in the first place. So you have to take this one step at a time. If you do get a lot of interviews and you are not able to pass the coding part, then look for solutions for that, such as finding tutor, finding study partners, things like that. Next is system design fundamentals. This part will be very, very, very difficult for folks who are from things like self-taught or doing boot camps and things like that. I know this because I was one of those people. These things will take a lot of learning on your end, reading a lot of books, reading blogs online from different companies on how they do certain things, reading on how, for example, recently, I believe it was this quarter, they made a post where they do a migration and they cut down tremendously on the time that they do query for data. Things like that would be very useful for you to kind of study for these system design fundamentals. Or lots of folks will come and say that, well, I've never done this system designs in my life. I don't know how to study for it. And I will tell you, 99% of people will never have a chance to build something from scratch to understand this. However, you need to know how these things are run and made and how they are put together, right? Just because you haven't done something is not a good, I would say, excuse or kind of things that you tell that we tell ourselves why we're not good at it, because that is someone out there will spend the time to study and be better than you at the thing that you say that you are unable to get better with. Keep that in mind. You can always get better at these things. Um, Finding tutor, finding group studies, those are available for you to get better at them. And also do mock interviews. Mock interviews are very important. I'm telling this because a lot of folks that I've tutored over the years do not ask for mock interviews, even if they pay me for tutoring. And that is because people do not want to appear that they are not doing well with study, even when it's a low risk, low stress environment. I would say that you do want to do mock interview. It's better to do them badly in kind of one of these mock interviews with me or with others than going to an actual interview and flop in those interviews because you do not want to do that. And you might think that Well, why wouldn't I do mock interviews if it's available for me for free, things like that? You will be surprised that you might be one of those people when the time to come, people will ask you, hey, do you need mock interview? Lots of people don't do that. And then the mock interview is actually the real interviews and they are not doing well in there. So that's what I would say. All right. Cool. So do not fail in the actual interview. That's the point. Failing interview with me, you might look bad to me. I don't care. I will give you good feedback. I will tell you how to improve it. You fail in the actual interview with Google, Google Recruiter will send you an email, say that, unfortunately, we've moved on to the next candidate. You will get zero feedback from them. And that's kind of the things that you want to avoid. You don't want to fail in the actual interview because the 9 out of 10 times they will not give you feedback. Trust me, I know I've asked for feedback in every single interview that I've done, and I've rarely ever gotten feedback on the interviews that I failed. The only companies that ever given me feedback was Netflix when I was when it was about like, let's say like 5 years ago, when I interviewed for that. One company's out of, I don't know, probably 20 different, 30 different on-sites that I've done. Keep that in mind. Most of them would not give you a feedback. You either know that you pass it or you get one of those email that, unfortunately, we have moved on to a new candidate and we don't want to see that, right? Cool. And remember, do not neglect soft skills and networking. This kind of group like Albert List group or the tech meetup groups are important because they will help you to kind of connect with others or be able to connect with people, be able to kind of put yourselves out there is oftentimes how you are going to find an opportunities. I will say this in I've interviewed a lot and I've gotten many offers, I got a lot of rejections as well, but I have never applied directly on the company's website. Every single interview I've done has been someone referring me, or I find someone to refer me. That's the goal. If you apply directly, most of the time, it's not going to be good. Spend the time to network with people. Spend the time to find folks that you can talk to in your prospective companies, and you're going to build out your network like that. Do not just, if you can help it, don't just go straight in and apply. My very first job was I reached out to someone at IBM and asking for a coffee. Person agreed. I went to meet them in person. So keep that in mind, right? That's very important. Do not neglect soft skill. Do not neglect networking. To be able to just talk to people. People would be willing to help you if they know who you are. If someone messaged me on LinkedIn and asked me for a referral, most of the time it's going to be a no for me. Unless I talk to you, unless I work with you, unless I know you substantially enough for me to kind of do the referral for you. So keep that in mind. And referral applications are always way a lot better than you put your email or you put your application to a portal because that just does somewhere disappear. Right. Just keep that in mind. Do not neglect soft skill. Again, I already talked about this before. When you apply, make sure you tailor to different job, highlight your accomplishment, be prepared for the difficult question. What are your strengths, your weakness, stuff like that. Follow up after interview. And this is the last point, very important. Be honest and be truthful about your abilities. Lots of people either overestimating themselves or underestimating themselves. So some people will think that they are a lot better than they are actually are, or they will think that they are not ready for some opportunities presented to them. Try to be honest with yourself. understand where you are technically, and only compare with yourself. Don't go compare with someone online. You will always find a ton of people that are smarter than you, or you can find tons of people that are, not as up to your skill level. So that is not the point. The point is to be honest with yourself, understand where you are, right? And these are some of the alternatives that I mentioned already, rather than just apply on the portal. Do email outreach. You can also take certification. I put the asterisk there because a certification only and only if you are in very specific kind of domains, cybersec. Um, Certifications are very important, for example, but for most of the other engineering stuff, certifications are generally pointless. You can have a million of them, nobody cares. If you do not prove that you can do the job without your portfolio. So keep that in mind. Also go to hackathons are some of the good ways to kind of, interact with people. And kind of, sometimes you get to talk with great folks, you work with great people. Sometimes those will return back to you. So those are some of the things that I would say to kind of alternative to just endlessly apply online, right? These are some of the final tips is that try to stay up to date with the industry trends. Right now, AI is very popular. However, most of the companies aren't really building their own AI. They just write wrappers for things like Gemini or Chat or OpenAI stuff like that. You can easily make a toy project to kind of understand how these things work. How can you tokenize your API calls, things like that? How can you like save your fetch so that you don't just endlessly call Open API. I mean Open AI API call just get a fat bill on your usage, for example. You can quickly learn these things without a lot of uh, things that are stopping you. Like Google will give you free credits. You use their Gemini. Utilize that to kind of understand how you can interact with this system. Uh, be open for new learning. Again, be humble and understand your strengths and weaknesses. Again, I cannot stress enough to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Be honest with yourselves. I've talked to people who wildly overestimating what they can do, and there are people that wildly underestimating things that they can do also, and that both can make you come up as someone that just write a bunch of stuff on your resume that you actually don't know. Or some people can turn out their opportunities because they think they are not ready for them yet. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have for today. Remember, this whole application, the whole job thing is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Give yourself some time and be honest, understand that it might take some time. So when my first job, when I looked for the opportunity, it took me over 6 months of study endlessly after I finished the boot camp to kind of get my first job, get my foot into the door. Understand that it is a long running, and under this current market, it might be longer than 6 months, it might be 9 months, but understand it is a marathon, not a sprint. Be willing to learn, be willing to adapt, and just give yourself time to kind of understand how we kind of go about this. Yeah, cool. That's it for me. Let me see. Are we going through some of these questions?
Yeah, let's go through some of these questions. I've seen a few come through. Oh, seen a lot come through. So let's see. We'll start from super early. Should we create multiple resumes if we do iOS and Android development?
uh, Depends on the job. Again, you can shrink one. It's okay to apply for an iOS role if you also know Android and web. You can list it, but do not make that as like the main talking point of it. And also, if you listen, you understand Android and iOS. So the question the interviewer, if it's a technical person, they might ask you what are some of your, what do you like working with Android versus iOS, for example, and they will expect you to go deep dive on it. If you do list those things on your resume, you don't have to write multiple um, resume, but again, tailor as much as you can to the particular position that you're looking for.
Awesome. There's a lot of questions coming in around AI, so I'm going to bundle this question a little bit. How much does AI play into it when you are preparing your resume? How do companies feel about it? And how do you get around? Well, actually, yeah, let's start with those two. What does AI play when it comes to preparing your resume, and what do companies feel about it if you are using AI for your resume?
They don't care.
Hmm.
I would say it doesn't matter, and you should be throwing your resume onto an AI and ask it make my resume more suited to this specific position. That's okay to do. Uh, yeah, using an AI for this is fine. That is what I would advise you to do. Like, make it so that it's put yourself in the best spot possible. Because again, I already said it. If you don't do something and it's available, someone else is going to utilize it and get ahead of you. So you need to kind of prep yourself for this situation. Now, I would do that too. I interview, I put my resume together with the job description and say like, hey, how can I make my resume more matching to this thing?
Awesome. What would you suggest being across data structures and algorithms as a foundation to system design, or are the two mutually exclusive?
They are very different. They're nothing in they have nothing related to each other.
Yeah.
You study them very differently.
Do you have any tips or advice on how to get involved in a community to build your portfolio?
Mm, Good question. I would do things like hackathon. Those are the things that are important. Look for local meetup. If you're a web person, look for like a local Angular React web meetup. If you're in San Francisco, there are hundreds of them. You know, always find them. Go to meetup.com, type in some keywords and go look. I mean, that's really the best way to get more involved with this. Also, going to conference if you can. Again, if you're in San Francisco, there are a lot of them, and I would advise to go to some of them to kind of, or not so, and don't go to this thing with an idea that I have to find someone to give me a refer. Go with an open mind to kind of learn stuff. This kind of connection will arise naturally rather than you force yourself like, hey, if I'm gonna go here, I need to find people that can refer me. That is the wrong mindset to kind of approach these sort of community and things like that.
Yeah. Here in Austin, almost all of the networking groups I find are virtual and seem to be more useful for people already in the field. As somebody trying to get my first job in tech, do you have any tips for how to make connections? And just to add on to this on another question, how do I also make connections and get beyond an AI system?
That is a much bigger conversation. I think that might be better. Our those are probably more like the other folks that run the other webinar. They might be able to answer that better. I'm more of a very technical person, so hard for me to kind of answer this. But uh, I would say this is more of a personal skill. Learn how to kind of interact with people in general. Ask them for a phone call through Zoom, for example, Meetup. over lunch, things like that. I've had a lot of folks that ask me to talk over the phone, give them advice, and I will pick up the phone. So things like that. Not everybody will do that. Some of them will. I'm one of those people that will be happy to kind of talk to you in a one-on-one situation, and I give you more, insight on how you want. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Most of the resumes I send, they say that your resume is overqualified. What should I do, even if I want to get a job with lower seniority?
Mm, I don't have an answer to that, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. In your experience with the large FANG style companies hire abroad, would they take on developers remotely that are not located in the US?
That would be a no because, for example, if Google, well, if Amazon has an in-office mandate, why would they hire you for remote when someone lives down the street from the office, right? Um, the manager cannot override the company's initiative on hiring. If you really want to look for remote job, startups are generally what you want to do. Also, any Web3 companies will actually offer you remote because distributed companies is, that's what Web3 is. The companies tend to go with their philosophy of their product. Web3 is distributed. Therefore, most of the Web3 companies are distributed by nature.
Yep. Let's see. Here's a job strategy question, and it's two part. Should I focus on applying for jobs first or on preparation? And as you mentioned, job searching is a marathon, not a sprint. How do you stay motivated?
Okay. You have to take, well, I cannot speak for everyone, but as an engineer, I take things one at a time and I will optimize for the bottleneck. If your bottleneck is not able to get people called back to you, then all of your focus should be to overcome that bottleneck, which is getting people to get back to you, find ways to kind of get through that. Now, if you get a lot of callbacks and you are unable to pass the first round of interview, which means you need to optimize on studying for lead code, then by then optimize for that. Or if you are getting to the on-site and you get down level because your system design rounds don't go so well, then that would be where you optimize your study from. I optimize where there are bottlenecks. I do not try to generalize things because that do not work for people.
Yeah.
And you only have 24 hours a day. You cannot study everything at once. Once you get good at something, move on to the next stage and figure the next part of the thing out.
Awesome. Okay. So, guys, please use the Q&A. We're going to move from the webinar chat here just because we've had a lot of questions and I want to make sure I get what you want to say. We'll take a few more questions. Fong has been very generous with his time. Here's another one. How do I take advantage of the hidden job market? I heard that posted jobs on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, etc. only account for 20% of the market versus the hidden job market, which has 80% of the jobs.
Yeah, and this will kind of goes on to answer the question right above it. How do I approach people? Most of the position will people will more likely to hire through referrals, hire someone internally, things like that. So if you want to kind of overcome that, you need to build the connection that people willing to give you a referral. Uh, how do you approach them? Try different way. That's the thing. How do you approach a stranger at the bar? You can try to come up to one person and be like, "Hey, how it's going?" Or you can come up and depending on their mood, ask them something else. And this is something for online interaction too. You have to kind of approach in different ways and see what works for you. What works for me might not work for you. That's at the end of the day.
So you're
You have to
becoming
see,
charming just like you, Fong.
huh?
You gotta become charming just like you, Fong.
No, I mean, to be honest, it's really different. You have to see what works for you. Again, this is more of a psychological, or this more of a psychology kind of questions rather than, I think that unfortunately we don't have all the time to kind of talk about. Uh, a short history for me too is that before I become an engineer, I used to sell software, so I do have some skills on how to approach people, things like that. So there are books that you can read up. One of the books that are my favorite is How to Befriend and Influence People. Read that book, get some kind of idea on how to, be nice to other people online. Yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
yeah, so
Oh,
here,
there you go. Yep, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Read that. It's a very short book. You can power that.
here's another one, and this is sort of two combined questions. I have dream companies that do education technology. How do I approach them for a 15-minute coffee talk instead of applying or waiting for positions to open? And are tech meetups a good way to directly approach companies to get them to read your resume, cover letter, and whatnot? I have thoughts, but I will let you go first, Fong. Or, I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Like I said before, you have to approach them. You have to approach different. Find the person that are working in the organization, in the team of that company that you want to work with. So if you want to go into work at Google Cloud, for example, look up the people in G Cloud, ask to talk to them, and slowly build kind of the connection with people that way. That's really how. Again, it's a much longer conversation for this. Yeah.
yeah. Any way to identify ghost postings, ghost
No,
job?
the way to identify that is to not apply online.
Hmm.
To the best way to someone refer you for a job. That's is the way to avoid ghost posting. Again, I've never gotten an interview from applying directly. I always go find someone to refer me, or is an old colleagues, old connections, things like that. I do not apply directly on a portal. I do not do that. And I advise you not to waste the time. Even if it takes 5 seconds to do, if you do 50 of them a day, that's a lot of 5 seconds that you could be, trying to build an actual relationship with someone. Yeah.
All right. And I'm gonna do one last question here. Ugh. Maybe this is a short one. Do companies assume that applicants know AI when they're recruiting for new positions these days?
No.
No.
Unless the position asking for, if it's say in the requirement, you have worked with large language model. If it's not there, nobody cares. I work at the Web3 companies before this. I do not understand anything about crypto. Just put it out there. I learn as I'm working on the job. So, but the job description didn't have you must know Web3. It was looking for a general software engineer. That is me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, last question. How would you set up bullet points for your experience with quantitative information when you're new to tech or seeking your first job? Or is it an alternative way to set up those bullets?
Make bullet points. I would say you again use ChatGPT for this kind of stuff. Write a sentence and then throw it on there and say, "How do I turn this into 4 bullet points?" You will get the answer. And that's what I would advise you to do.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, with that said, any final thoughts, Fong, before we wrap up?
That's it. And I do have a meeting after this, so I gotta, I gotta.
Wonderful. We'll let you
I'm
get
quite
going.
busy.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being part of this today. As always, this meeting today or this webinar today has been recorded, so you will be getting a recording link here soon. We'll also, in that follow-up message, have Feng's contact info. So if you're interested in coaching or additional insights or informational interviewing, feel free to reach out. Until next time, thank you so much for being here today. We have many more events on our Eventbrite, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful evening and goodbye.
Later, folks. Bye bye.